Joined now by the former Prime Minister of Ukraine, Arseniy Yatsenyuk. Great to have you on the programme this evening. And I guess to start, I'm interested to know what the mood is amongst yourself and the Ukrainian delegation and indeed President Zelensky, given everything that Donald Trump has said over the last 48 hours or so, and the same from J.D. Vance today.
You know, frankly speaking, the optics is not the best one. And I expect that this mood has to change as quick as possible. And the thing is that there is some kind of good mood in Moscow. But I believe that we all, and Americans mainly, have to realize that Moscow is an arch rival both to the United States, to NATO, and to Ukraine. So once again, it isn't something unexpected, okay? We expected this kind of stuff. But we urgently need the United States back in this big geopolitical game to prevail in this righteous fight and to save Ukrainian people.
You talk about Moscow there. President Putin must be rubbing his hands, being told he doesn't have to return all the land he's taken. He doesn't have to worry about Ukraine joining NATO, and also being told you're welcome back in the G7. We'll make it the G8 again. I mean, it's as if Donald Trump has played all his cards before negotiations have even begun.
Well, as you mentioned, negotiations, frankly speaking, I don't see any kind of real negotiations. There can't be any kind of negotiations about Ukraine without Ukraine. How one can negotiate the fate of Europe without Europe? How one can define the future of NATO without an entire alliance? So that's true, that there is some kind of boost to Putin, but I believe that this is a temporary boost. Because the new US administration is to realize that Ukrainians are fighting for its sovereignty, and we, Ukrainians, are fighting for the security and sovereignty and independence of the entire free world, including the United States. Americans invested a lot into Ukraine's security, and this is the best ever investment into the United States security. But giving you the numbers, I hope that you are well aware that Europeans invested even more than Americans, $140 billion, and Americans invested $100 billion. So once again, it is to be a joint fight for the fragments of the international law, a joint fight how to save Ukraine, because if Ukraine fails, this is going to be a disaster for the United States and for the Oval Office. What Putin wants? Putin wants to outcheat, to outplay new U.S. administration. He wants to make another Afghanistan syndrome for the United States. So I hope that the U.S. will be back in game.
So if Ukraine does have a space at the table, if Ukraine is involved in negotiations like you say it has to be, what are the red lines for Ukraine? What does a peace settlement look like?
Look, everything that wants Putin is a non-starter for Ukraine. Because what Putin wants? He wants to absorb an entire Ukraine. He hasn't changed his ultimate goal. And we have to realize this. There are a number of talks about the concessions. So we've made too much bloody concessions. What we urgently need, ironclad security guarantees for Ukraine, financial and military support. We need to ramp up sanctions. We need to become the NATO member, as the Article 5 is the only viable solution for the future security of Ukrainian state and the entire Europe. That's what kind of, that not the demands, that's the way we see the war has to end.
You talk about security guarantees, a lot of talk about Ukraine and NATO over the last 24 hours or so. And there seems to be a big split now, doesn't there, between the US and Europe and the UK, of course, about where Ukraine is on that journey towards NATO membership. What's your sense that you're getting in Munich? Because the messaging is very different, isn't it, from Washington and from Brussels?
Well, you're right. But what can I tell you? In 2008, as a Speaker of the House, I signed a letter asking the NATO member states to provide membership action plan for Ukraine. And Bucharest summit issued a very clear-cut statement saying that the time will come when Ukraine is to become NATO member state. And there is no single national government that can change the unilateral, the multilateral decision made by consensus of the entire NATO member states. So, as a first stage, what we urgently need, we need ironclad security guarantees for the Ukrainian people and for the Ukrainian state. And I strongly believe that the time will come in the long run that Ukraine get this NATO membership perspective. Look, we've seen there are different leaders in different countries. And as we live in the democracy, as of now, some people say that, yes, there is some kind of strain in NATO member states over the future perspectives of Ukraine. But we're going to overcome this, and the time will come.
And just in one sentence, if you could, do you think Putin actually wants peace?
No. No. Putin wants chaos. Putin wants war. Putin wants Ukraine. Putin wants to undermine the United States. Putin wants the collapse of NATO. And Putin wants the victory of all dictators and autocrats. That is a combination of Putin's Russia, North Korea, Iran, under the umbrella of China.
OK, I know you've taken time out of a busy schedule in Munich to speak to us. We appreciate it. Arseniy Yatsenyuk, former Prime Minister of Ukraine. Thank you very much.